Good morning. It's been quite a few days since I've been up to the allotment, and in that time the kids have gone back to school, and as always happens at this time of year, the very week the kids go back, the autumn seems to descend. When I looked out the window this morning at the back garden, everything had like a golden hue, that lovely autumn feel. So I'm going to have a look in the allotment now, see what it's looking like there, see if autumn's hit there. And if you'd like to come with me, I'll give you a little tour. Well, we've had a lot of rain in the last week. It's poured with rain most nights. And then yesterday we had thunderstorms and just the most torrential downpour that I think I've ever seen. The guttering on our house couldn't cope and it was coming over the top like Niagara Falls. Anyway, all good for the garden. As you can see, everything is still fully in bloom, if that's what you would call it. Lots going on, and I'm sure it's greened up quite a lot over the past week. As you can see, this border here is firing away on all cylinders. It looks great actually, and the rain definitely has brought things on. These leeks are coming on beautifully. So I've got half a bed of leeks here. Planted them immediately the potatoes come out. They're doing really well, needs weeding. And then I've got kale and chard and beetroot here, which again is coming away fantastically. I've got this one here that wants to go to seed, but the rest are fine. I'm wanting to really overwinter these if I can. And this little strip here at the side of the chard and the kale I planted, I think it was last week. I put in spinach and I put in spring onions. The spinach has definitely sprouted, but there is a bit of an issue. When I had the potatoes in here, I earthed them up with grass clippings that I got off the field. It's where the council dumped the grass clippings, which was great for the potatoes. However, I think the grass clippings must have been off grass that had already seeded, because it gets into long patches. And ever since I took the potatoes out, I've had a massive amount of grass coming up, little grass. So it must have been full of grass seed, which is a little bit of a pest. Means I've got to keep on top of this weeding, and that's something I'm not that great at. I need to take this netting off my cabbages, because Kenny was up here the other day and he said there were 3 cabbage white butterflies underneath the netting. Typical. So I guess I'll have to check for eggs. I don't think the caterpillars will be hatched at this stage. I don't want to lose me cabbages at this stage. So I would say I'm having some success with these cabbages. I mean, they're not brilliant. They have been eaten a lot, despite my efforts to keep the beasts off. Yeah, I mean, really, at the minute I've only got 2. There's another one there. 2 or 3 good ones, and the rest might come on in time, but we'll see. This is the courgette border. Everything seems to have migrated out of the border and over onto the next border, as these types of things do. I trimmed off all the mouldy leaves. It's got the mildew that the courgettes always get at this time of year. I took all of them off last week, so there's not a lot of leaves left, but it is still trying to produce. It's got some little baby courgettes on. Might get another 1 or 2, but I think they're more or less finished. There you go. I've just found those 2. hiding there, didn't know they were there. Right next to the courgette borders, this border that I planted a couple of weeks ago, I put seed potatoes in, or just potatoes from the supermarket, to see if I could get a second crop. Now, although there's like 3 have come up, the rest haven't come up, and I don't really know why they wouldn't come up. I cannot quite understand that, but anyway, I'm pleased that the 3 have come up, and we'll just keep our eye on them and hope I can get some kind of potato crop in about December. Now this border, although you wouldn't know it to look at it, is my squash bed. It's actually completely full of nasturtiums and calendula. It does not look pretty, but well, how many squash have I got? That's the big question, isn't it? The foliage on the squash has got mildew and it's all starting to die back. So I think these squash, they were supposed to be quite early varieties, so I think they're just about finished. And they're probably in the next week or 2, once all the foliage has completely died off, I'll pick the squash. But I have to say, a bit disappointed, not a great many of them. The ones I've got look quite nice. And one variety in particular, which was an Anna Schwartz squash, has done okay, but the rest of them had 2 other varieties, a Boston squash, and what was the other one? Why can I never remember it? Some other variety. I've got 1 or 2 of them, and I planted a lot of plants. So let's have a little closer look. These are the Anna Schwartz squash. They're not exactly very pretty, but I'm hoping they'll taste nice. So that's to give you an idea of the size they are. I've got about 4 of them, 5 of them. It's a nice one, good size. This is the New Zealand yams. They're just coming on okay. They seem to be quite slow to get going when you first put them in, but in a month or so they'll cover this whole border. They'll cover and spread it all. Next to that, I know it just looks like a bunch of weeds, but I've got some rocket and some mizuna. Also I put in some Chinese cabbages, but I don't think they've really come up. So I'm hoping to get a little autumn bit of salad out of that. And then further along, I've got some purple sprout and broccoli for some nice broccoli come the winter and the spring. Ooh, this is me gigantic magenta goosefoot quinoa, as I've discovered, that I showed you last week. Absolutely massive, can't believe it. Anyway, this border's another jumble. At this time of year, I find my borders get quite mixed up with stuff. As I take out my first crop in the early summer, then things seem to get quite mixed up in my garden. Can't seem to crack the code of getting one proper crop following another. Anyway, not to worry, doesn't really matter. In the front, I think it's cabbages I've got. These kale, obviously have been in a long time, they're doing great. Lovely and healthy. I don't bother to net them. I know a lot of people net their kale, but nothing seems to bother them until we get to the deep winter, and then the pigeons will have a go at them. And behind me, I've just got a few leeks popped in there. This border here has been so pretty all summer. I don't quite know if it's going to show on camera. It might just look like a complete mess, but it's a real cottagey garden look. It's been my favourite all year. I'm actually letting some of this stuff in this border just go to seed, because I'm trying to really get on top of collecting seed this year. So I've got rainbow chard there and there that I'm just letting flower and wait until the seeds form. My sorrel has also gone to seed. I might save some of that. But this one here, it's got the powdery mildew, but it's a patty pan squash. It's taken such a long time. I've got about 3 or 4 of them dotted around the allotment, and I just thought they were going to be a complete fail, but It must just be the case that they are a later cropping variety. I'll show you, I've got quite a few on here. I'm pretty pleased with it. So we can see under there a nice little clutch of pretty little patty pan squash. I really grow them more for the novelty of the shape of them rather than the taste. Probably courgettes are better actually in terms of taste. So next to that pretty little border, I've got this one where the beans have been. Took out the peas ages ago now, and I've put swede and 2 different types of kale. I've got a Sutherland kale and a blue kale here. My swedes are actually doing quite well. Well, the foliage is. We'll wait and see if I can get any kind of an actual swede coming. There are little ones on there, but we'll see. I love a swede, I love them. We just were at the shops the other day up in Northumberland, and there was a butcher's and we bought some haggis, and so I need the swede now so I can have haggis and neeps. Yeah, so they are coming on lovely. They're very vibrant and very vigorous. These are the runner beans. I've had 2 different varieties, Scarlet Emperor and a white variety. They haven't done that well. I haven't had that many off them. I haven't said that I haven't picked them yet, because we grow them to keep the beans so that we can eat the actual beans out the pods. So they're almost ready there now. That one I would pick. I'll pick that and show you in fact. Wait until they get yellow and start to dry out, and then you pick them and the seeds are fully formed then, and they're just very nice to dry out and keep them in a jar or a pot or something all winter to use for soups and stews and casseroles and what have you. Behind the runner beans is where the French beans were. They're finished now. I need to take them all out. This is my little patch of celery. It's the first time I've grown celery. I grew it from seed. Now I'm a little bit confused by it. I don't exactly know when I'm meant to harvest it. The stalks are just very thin, like pencil thin. They don't seem to have grown much at all, really. It looks healthy enough. I think it's been a very dry kind of summer for celery. I think they like a lot of water, so maybe that's it. I just don't know when I'm meant to harvest it. I've pulled 1 or 2 and just used it, you know, to chop up fine to put in a bit of soup or whatever. But yeah, should I harvest it now? Can anybody tell me, or should I leave it? This is the Asturian tree cabbage that I've been growing for the first time this year. Some of it's a little bit moth-eaten. I think it must be slugs, because I just can't find any caterpillars on it. I did have it covered, but it didn't seem to be helping, so I've just taken them off. Now, whether I'll grow this again, I'm not so sure. I am going to try and overwinter it, just to see how it gets on. If it overwinters, it'll get a reprieve. But I don't think I'll plant it again next year. To me, it's more like a kale than a cabbage. The leaves are quite kind of tough when you eat them, when you cook them. So I would rather have a normal cabbage than this tree cabbage. But we'll see. I can always change my mind. Well, in the next week or 2, I think I'll be harvesting the runner beans definitely in the next week or two. I think the courgettes will be finished. The squash I think will be ready to harvest. But really I've still got plenty going on. I'm pretty pleased with how I'm managing to keep the garden rolling on right into the autumn and through the winter this year. Yeah, so that is the allotment this September. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you next time. Bye.